Ain't no half step on Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. I think we got those technical difficulties kind of worked out, and I think I got the number one true fighter, Warren Ballentine, on the live line with us now. Warren, can you hear me?
I got you, brother.
Now we got you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being patient with us as we work through some of those technical difficulties. I got you on the live line. I want to get right to what we talked to you about, having you come on the show with us on tonight, the President Barack Hussein Obama legacy. Let's start there. Tell us what you think his legacy is going to be as we reflect upon the last 8 years.
Kind of like a hodgepodge of different things. It's going to be a legacy of proudness for a lot of people because of what him and Michelle and those kids has represented for the last 8 years. To be in the White House scandal free, to be family orientated, God fearing. The decency and the empathy that they've had as a family, that'll be something that people will remember. But I think when you talk about it from a political base, his legacy is going to be homosexuality got legalized for marriage, marijuana got legalized, and the Affordable Care Act. And when Trump comes in and does what he and the Republicans are going to do with that, in the end, Trump is going to get credit for giving national health care to this country because so many people thought that the ACA failed, and the truth of the matter is that it didn't fail. What happened was you didn't have enough people signing up for it that were under 30 years old. If more people under 30 years old would have signed up for it, it would have worked with no problem, but because they didn't have as many people as they thought they were going to have, that's why it ended up having so many problems that it had.
Right. Now, let's talk about that for just a minute. I'm going to keep you right there because you have a lot of folks, quite frankly, that are misinformed. You got people who don't want to have Obamacare, and they think that Obamacare is terrible and the worst thing that they can have, but they're very, very happy to have this thing called the Affordable Care Act. And so I think the Republicans have done a great job of framing the argument around their electorate to get these folks, these misinformed folks, to support them in their repealing of the Affordable Care Act. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you got some folks out here who's talking about they don't want Obamacare because they have the ACA. They don't even know that it's the same thing. The Republicans call it Obamacare, but it's the same thing. It's the ACA. And, you have people who, you had coal miners in West Virginia who was getting $600 a month in subsidies because of this Health Care Act, who no longer will get it. So when all is said and done, I think what's going to happen with the Republicans is you're going to see them keep a lot of this in place. They're going to keep the 26-year-olds for the kids. They're going to keep the closing of the donut hole for Medicare and Medicaid. President-elect Trump is saying that he doesn't want a single-payer option on this and that he wants health care for everybody. Well, I mean, if he wants that, he's sounding more like President Obama than the Republicans, because the Republicans are talking about giving you, the savings, the HSAs, and not expanding Medicare and Medicaid. But I think what President-elect Trump wants to do is expand Medicare and Medicaid so that everybody can get covered. I mean, you think about this: if you're a woman and for a pre-existing condition, if you had a C-section on your first child, that's considered pre-existing condition.
Right.
So if you have another child, you have to have a C-section, it won't even be covered.
Right.
I think a lot of when it goes through the wash, I think a lot of people who are opposed to Obamacare is going to be very happy with whatever the Republicans implement, not realizing that 90% 90% of it is going to be the same thing. It's going to be Obamacare.
Right. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio. We're talking to Warren Ballentine about the Obama legacy and the Trump administration coming up here. You know, we were talking a few minutes ago, Big Bro Joe and Mr. 3375, they're here in the room with me, and we were talking before we got you on the line about what it's going to be like for the president to turn it over to the president-elect. And I guess as civilians, we have no idea what that must be like, but we all, as men, can imagine what it must be like for somebody to kind of intrude upon your space, especially when that person coming in is kind of the opposite of you. What do you think it's going to be like for him when it's time for him, just as a man, knowing that this dude is coming for him with regards to his legacy? What do you think he's thinking? I know you've met the man. I know you've talked to him. Do you get a sense of how he's feeling?
Well, from the relationship that I had with the man, I would tell people that I think what he and Michelle both wanted, they wanted Hillary to win so that they wouldn't have to be in the spotlight anymore. I think they both wanted to go back to just being citizens and picking and choosing when they get involved. I think with Trump coming into office, both of them are going to be a lot more visual, and both of them will have a lot more to say than if Hillary would have won that office. I think that they both realize that they're not going to be able to walk away and go into the sunset now that Trump is coming in, because quite frankly, you know, it's going to be very difficult for this country. And really, it's not even the people who didn't vote for Trump that the problem is going to come in. The problem is going to come in is when the people who voted for Trump realize that this man lied to them. That's when it's going to become a real problem in this country. The problem hasn't even, you know, what's going on with the Democrats is nothing. What's going to be the problem is once these people who were promised jobs and who overlooked his lies and his deceitfulness and everything else realize that they got played, that's when it's going to be a problem in this country. And that's coming soon because, you know, quite frankly, you know, even if you look at today, you know, let's look at what happened today. Now, allegedly, they had set up this meeting with MLK III and Andrew Young back in January 8th. They were supposed to meet at the museum in D.C.
Right.
Now, what happened was this. Let me tell you what happened. Somebody got to Trump and said, look, you giving them the power if you go meet with them in D.C., and you're going to have your constituents, those who voted for you, mad that you are spending this day, this black day, with these black folks in a black museum. So he said, no, I can't go to D.C., y'all come to me. Well, Andrew Young got sick, couldn't go. MLK III goes. Now, MLK III shouldn't even win. And the reason he shouldn't have went is because every time you walk into Trump Tower, you basically walking into The Apprentice. That's what you're doing. And when you look at who he's been meeting with, they've been talking about mentoring. Now, I'm friends with all the King kids. I've known Martin, you know, probably for 15 years now. I knew their mama. I know them personally. Martin ain't got no juice. I mean, that's the only way I can really say it. He's not leading an organization. He's not, but they wanted to have him on King Day because this is about product placement. And people don't realize what Donald Trump is doing. This all is about product placement. But what Trump and them don't realize is that black folk don't like product placement. And so you're getting this backlash to Steve Harvey, to Jim Brown, to Ray Lewis, to Kanye, and even MLK III, because we realize what's going on. This is about product placement. This isn't about helping us, because when you go in there and you're talking about mentoring, look, our kids need mentors, but hell, they daddies need jobs. They daddies need to be out of jail. They family need better education. So if you really want to help us, talk to us about that. Talk to us about investing in our community where we can own the community, we can own the land. And if you're going to tell me you cared about the inner city for all these years, you're a billionaire. Where's the boys club that you built? I mean, hell, you didn't even do a Nino Brown and give out free turkeys at Christmas. So, I mean, this is such a reality television show thing for him, and he thinks that people are stupid stupid, but I guess we are, because it's so many people who not only heard him lie, saw the video clips that he was a liar, and they still this man a pass.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just white privilege. I don't know, because I'm not white. I don't know.
Ain't no #, Marcus J. Warren, you just laid it right out. I mean, when we look at the way he's doing it, I think you said the other day on your show, it's kind of like some mafioso type stuff. When you got to come and kiss the ring, I think is the phrase that you use. We talked on the Warren Ballentine show last week about the surprise that many folks are going to get, particularly in the black community, that are upset that he is actually the president-elect. But you are pretty confident that he's going to make jobs and people are going to actually get back to work. Tell us why you think that and where you're coming from when you say that.
Well, I think he's going to create jobs for a couple of reasons, but this is the main reason. This is the reason why he's going to create the jobs. It's a infrastructure bill that's sitting on the floor right now of the Senate. The bill got introduced in 2010. Barack Obama wanted to introduce this bill. It will create 1.8 million jobs. Now, it's going to take $1 trillion to fund this legislation. Well, America don't want to go into debt for another $1 trillion. So what Trump and them are brilliantly doing, and if you listen to his press conference the other day, the most important part of that press conference wasn't Donald Trump talking. It was when his lawyer got up there and talked. Because when his lawyer got up there and talked, what his lawyer said was, the Trump family will not be doing any international deals as long as he's in the White House. But they will be doing private domestic deals. Now, why is that so important? Because they're going to privatize this infrastructure bill. And when they privatize it, that means that Trump Corporation and every billionaire in his cabinet, their corporations can put money into that privatized ownership. It's going to look like a government entity, but it's going to be privately owned, just like the Federal Reserve is. So when you look at this in 10 years, they may all put up $100, even $300 million a person, but they will end up making off of that $300 million close to $1 trillion, because all the infrastructure that's built and put into place, they will own it. Yeah. They will privately own it, even though it'll look like a label of a government thing. Now, another reason that this is going to create jobs, this is going to create jobs even more so than the 1.8 million, is because these corporations now are going to be under the incentive to create more jobs, because they'll get to put money in privatizing this infrastructure in America. So you have corporations all across this country opening up jobs that they never would have opened up, only because they're going to make that money back 100 times more, because they're going to be the owners of all of this country. They're going to own the land. They're playing monopoly, and we don't realize that they're playing monopoly. But if you're a student of history, what's happening today, Trump and them is doing exactly what Rockefeller, Morgan, Standard Oil, all these people in the past did when they created the Federal Reserve. They created an atmosphere where the public was calling for the Federal Reserve and centralized banking. What Trump and them is doing is they're going to create these jobs, and the public is going to be crying for these infrastructure bills because it's creating jobs. And so they're going to go all across this country creating jobs, and they're going to play monopoly. They're going to buy, they're going to privatize it, and they're going to buy up every piece of land that they can buy up. And in the end, they will be controlling the board, and we'll be nothing but pawns on the board. We won't even have a chance to get into the position of owning a piece of property. You know, I talk about this every day on my show. We love to say we're a capitalistic country, but the definition of capitalism is simply this. You have to have somebody who's impoverished, you have to have somebody that's a working class, and you got to have somebody that's affluent. That is the true definition of capitalism. And if you look at America right now, the one thing that everybody touches is education, because everybody's kid goes through some kind of schooling. And if you look at the public school system in America, I don't care what city you are in, you have capitalism in that school system, because you have underperforming kids, you have average kids, and then you have the kids that's taking the above average classes. The above average kids end up being doctors and lawyers. The average kids end up being the working class, and the ones who are performing badly, they're the poor. They're already set for life by third grade. Their destination has already been set, unless blessed as an exception, where they can play some ball, they can sing, they can act, or they have a parent that's vigilant who goes up to school, makes sure their kid is getting the opportunity to get out of that lower tier, because that's what they end up with for their life. If they go down that lane, that's what they end up in.
Right. And, we talk about that a lot on this show when we talked about how those tests come out, and based on those tests, they determine how many prisons, those private prisons, that they're going to need in those areas. And then they all go together. I know your time is short, and I appreciate your patience while we work through the technical difficulties in the beginning. I'm going to just have you close with this. When we look at the last few presidents that we've had and the legacy that we have for each of them, my fear is that as bad as George Bush was, the second one, I don't know that I would be one that would think that he had any maliciousness in his spirit. I just think that he wasn't a good president. There's a difference between someone that's malicious and selfish versus someone who is just not very good at what they're being asked to do. And in George Bush's case, that's to be the president. He has some pretty aggressive advisors, Dick Cheney being the first one that I can think of kind of off the top of my head. So legacy, and I guess kind of going back to the original question, the legacy of Obama, you think, is going to be tainted potentially by some of the things that Donald Trump does. 2 years from now, where's our country with regards to how we viewed Obama and how we view Donald Trump? I'm looking for, and you call yourself something on your show when you predict the future. What do you call yourself?
Truthadamus. Truthadamus is going to give you a great prediction here. All right. 2 years from now, people are going to be looking at Trump as a deity because he's going to create these jobs. They're going to be looking at him as a deity. They're going to think he's one of the greatest presidents in American history. 3 years from now is when people are going to realize what just happened. That's when it's all going to change. That's when they're going to say, well, wait a minute, we miss Obama, because by that third year, he's going to create the jobs, but we're going to be at war. Right. We're going to be at war, and it's not going to be a war where we're just going over into another country. It's going to be a war that's directly affecting us here at home. And that's when people will be saying, man, well, we wish we had President Obama. Now, the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, and this is important when you think about the legacy. The Republicans, they ride or die for each other, no matter what. The person could be dead wrong. Think about Lindsey Graham hated Donald Trump. Right. But Lindsey Graham is ride or die for every nominee Donald Trump has picked. Right. Why? Because they're Republicans. They're rolling no matter what. Look, Rubio, he wants this Cuba deal killed because of how his parents was treated. But guess what? He's making some noise, but in the end, he's going to vote Republican because they're partisan and they're going to roll like that. If President Obama, if I was him leaving that office, if he really wanted to make an imprint on history, walking out that door, what he should do is make an executive order allowing any non-violent felon on the federal side, because he can't do it under the state, but on the federal side, to be able to expunge their record for $1,000 and let them start over free. That would change the positioning for poor people, black people, brown people all over this country to get back into the workforce and create opportunity. And not only would that change the positioning for them, it would help the states, because that $1,000 to clear your record, if you got 100, I mean, you got over 100 million people who got records like that. Right. If all of them paid $1,000, I mean, you're talking about $1 trillion in income coming into the country. I mean, he could do that. And then, lastly, if I was him, because the kind of person I would pardon everybody. T.I. would get pardoned. Kwame would get pardoned. Jesse Jr. I wouldn't care. I would pardon everybody, because if the Republicans was in office, they would do the same thing. Hell, Bush wouldn't even let Scooter Libby's case go to. He was like, you charge him one day, Tuesday, I'm commuting his sentence. Right. They didn't even get through the trial before Bush was like, his sentence is commuted. But Democrats will not do that. And because they won't do that, I'm an independent, but I've gotten to the point like this. I'm so disgusted by the weakness of the Democrats, and so disgusted by the fact that we as black people have voted Democrat forever, and our situation is still as bad as it is. I'm done, man. I'm done. I can't support them. I can't tell people to vote for them. I'm done. Until they do something different
You know, the sad part with that is, you know, you got a lot of people in the conscious community that are already not voting, and they think those of us who do vote, they think we're the weak people because they figure that the system is not set up for you. There's nothing that you can gain from it, particularly as black people. And, you know, a lot of folks now are just really learning about the Electoral College from what happened in 2000 and then, of course, what happened in November. And there are a lot of folks just kind of already come to that conclusion for different reasons. And it's just hard for me, you know, because intellectually I know how important it is to vote, but practically it just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. A lot because of what you just said, because of the weakness on one side and the aggressiveness on the other side, and we're the ones that's crushed in the middle and nothing happens positively for us. But then when you look at, you know, all politics being local, so if you're not voting locally anyway, it doesn't even really matter what you do on a national scale. Like, I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and people gave me the business for it, but she still won Virginia. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, so what difference does it make, you know, on that, you know, on that level? Ain't no #1 Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Warren, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join us here on the show. If you got anything that you're working on, that you're doing, that you want to share with the listeners so that they could follow you, if you want to tell them how to listen to your show, I'm sure they got a couple of jewels that you dropped on them, and they want to hear more from you. So how can they find you, brother?
Man, they can follow me on Twitter at TruthFighter1, at TruthFighter1. That's the easiest way. Or Instagram, TruthFighter1. And then you can catch me right there. I do Russ Parr Show. I don't know if Russ Show plays it. I do Ricky Smiley Show. I did my show. And then, you know, hey, I'm here. I'm trying to motivate, trying to educate, you know, but, you know, until we realize, you know, they had this little march up there sharpening them, and really that's just for him to elevate his position. You know, he's marching, talking about they don't want Jeff Sessions in. Politically, there's nothing we can do to stop Jeff Sessions from getting in, right? Because the Republicans played hardball to the point where the Democrats got so weak and got so scared, they got rid of the filibuster when it came to appointees. So once you get rid of the filibuster, now you only need 51 votes instead of 60 votes. And guess what? They got 51 members of the Senate. So guess what? Everybody's getting confirmed. And all this stuff with Jeff Sessions and everything else, these are people who are lying to y'all, who are trying to act like they fighting for you. These Negroes ain't fighting for you. They fighting for their position. That's what they fighting for. They fighting to keep them in a position of being a celebrity and making millions of dollars. The fight is over. Right now, they need to be looking at 2018. And this is why I'm done with the Democrats, because I'm so sick of them lying to us. And that's what they're doing. They're lying to us. They're telling you, well, I'm fighting for you. Negro, you ain't fighting for me, because if you was fighting for me, you would be getting ready for 2018. You wouldn't be even taking on Jesse. You can't stop it. So why act like you can stop it?
Right.
That's my thing. Don't act like you can do something that you know you can't do.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to this earlier when I mentioned how in 2017 we got a different, I don't know if I said it on the air, or I may have said it to the brothers before we went live, but we're using, you know, 1950s and 60s tactics in 2017. I mean, we marching. I mean, why are we doing that when it should be simple enough, even with social media, where we can have a revolution on the computer? You know what I mean? If you really about it like that, for real, if you really about it and you really care about what the people want to have, prosperity, then you're not sending people from California to D.C. to go and march in a town that has already shown that they don't care about you. You know what I'm saying?
Man, look, as we celebrate Dr. King's Day, like I said today on my show, if Dr. King was alive, I don't think he'd be messing with any of these Negroes. Every last one of these Negroes are multimillionaires. Yeah. Every last one of them. And they telling you they for you when they sit on the boards of these same corporations that's crushing you. So you can't tell me you for me, you love me, but you supporting the person who's stepping on my neck. You can't tell me that, dog. It don't make sense to me.
I appreciate you, Warren. Thank you again for your time tonight, man. We're going to talk soon, okay? Love you, brother. Some more to be.
Love you too, brother. Keep doing the good things, man.
You got it, brother. Be cool.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. We got a whole lot that we need to respond to. We got the Shan Pipple room, we got Big Bro Joe in the room, and yours truly. Y'all rocking with us through those technical difficulties. We got through it, and we got through the interview with the number one truth writer. We appreciate him, and we appreciate you guys. We're going to move on with the show after we take this break. Marcus J and the crew and you, be back in a few.